This is the Final Whistle podcast from the Wrexham AFC media team.
Final score, Wrexham 1, Barrow 3. If you don't want to hear a grown man cry, stop listening now. Oh, that was not good, was it? Wrexham just looked disjointed and uncomfortable from the very start. The conditions were horrible. And Brian Hughes, I understand that that's the first thing he mentioned in his press conference, because the conditions were extremely difficult. Having said that, Wrexham looked quite uncomfortable and tentative with them, whereas Barrow rolled their sleeves up and coped with it. Okay, goals change circumstances, and getting a goal from a set piece in the third minute changes matters, but from the very outset, Barrow just looked like they were determined to take the game to Wrexham. And that's how it turned out, and Wrexham, I'm afraid, had something of a nightmare. Throw in a few stats before actually talking about why. Believe it or not, when we let that goal in the third minute, it was the first time this season that Wrexham have let a goal in at home all season in the first half. It was also the first time we've let in a goal at home in the first half in open play since February last year. And it's the last time we let in 3 goals in a half at home since that horrible game in December 2016 when we lost 3-0 to Macclesfield. Remember Hamza Ben Sharif's meltdown? So yeah, it was an unhappy first half. Trailing 3-0, the game dead by then, in all honesty. Wrexham made changes. Now Sean Pearson is back causing him trouble. We understand not serious trouble, but bad enough to consider that he probably playing 3 games in a week would be too much for him. Of course, Brad Walker's got that worrying injury he picked up at Orient as well. And Wrexham also left out Paul Rutherford. We essentially changed to a 4-4-2, although it was a little bit confusing to see how it panned out from the very start. It looked wrong. Wrexham looked uncomfortable. Okay, we are lacking a lot of leaders. Pearson, Manny Smith, Summerfield, Walker, and a strong core of the side missing there, as James Harrison will explain later on in the podcast very eloquently. There's something more lacking. This 4-4-2 immediately didn't work. We looked thin in midfield, and the key thing was the front four became very detached early on, you felt. When Wrexham lost the ball, which was often, it felt like the back four, with the 2 midfielders running around in front, stretched and asked to cover all sorts of spaces and areas, while Barrow very calmly moved the ball about, dragged us out of position, and then put the ball in where we'd left the space and punished us. They were ruthless. Barrow, I thought, were very good indeed, but we were a bit shambolic, in all honesty. And then that front four, the pitch really didn't manage to get involved or perform terribly well. And like I said, an early goal doesn't help. So Wrexham, a goal behind in the third minute, a corner on the left-hand side, whipped in with good quality by Kay, and there it was Brad Jones at the near post jumping, Dan Jones, beg your pardon, and hitting a great glancing header across lanes. And the moment he made contact, he just thought, that's in, and Barrow took the lead, and it was a deserved lead. Wrexham continued to struggle. They just couldn't get out their half. They couldn't feed the forward players at all. McGlashan clearly has got pace, but looked very lightweight when the ball played into feet. The referee had a fairly laissez-faire attitude to physical contact, which I think helped Barrow, but I'm not trying to hide behind that at all. They were robust in the challenge, and good luck to them for that. There was another opportunity just after the 10-minute mark, which I think summed up in a way what was wrong with Wrexham. They looked like they were unfamiliar with the idea of a 4-4-2 and were trying to grope and tentatively feel their way towards how it works. John Rooney getting the ball and carrying it to the edge of the area, losing out. But when the ball's played back into midfield, Barrow were always first to the second balls throughout the first half. Rooney was just allowed to step back out, find as much space as he wanted between lines, turn and see what he could do this time. 25 yards out, he drove a powerful, typical shot down towards the bottom left corner. Leighton did well to get down low to his right to parry it away. It was nice work by Rooney, but the way that Wrexham just failed completely to pick him up and gave such a dangerous player so much space just to wander around and pick his shot, that was not great. Around the quarter-hour mark, Wrexham suddenly sparked into life, and there was a change that caused this, and it was interesting because from my vantage point it looked like a sort of on-pitch tactical decision. Maybe not, maybe I'm wrong. It looked like Ben Tollett just decided, I'm playing through the middle now. He certainly came across and told Stuart Bevan that was the case. Maybe, to be fair, he's on the left-hand side. Maybe the dugout had given him the message. I didn't notice it. But anyway, it worked. We still were pretty much a 4-4-2, but Tollis was playing through the middle, Bevan playing on the left-hand side, and Tollis immediately brought some life to proceedings. He went on 2 lively runs to the edge of the area to bring Wrexham to life. And the second run, he pulled back for Bevan, who turned and hit a shot from the edge of the box. It lacked venom. There was a big shout for handball, though, against Barrow centre-back Jason Taylor. I've got to be honest, it didn't look like handball at all to me. But, interestingly, the players all joined in. Usually you get crowd shouts and the odd player, but the players seemed really convinced that it was a handball. So it'd be interesting to have a look back at that and see exactly what happened. And then shortly afterwards, Wrexham's best moment until their very late goal. Tollis on the right-hand side doing brilliantly, receiving a driven pass, dummying it, and then spinning beyond his defender, who was bemused and couldn't make contact on it. He surged into a crossing position, drove a great ball into the near post. Jason Oswell attacking the near post, tried a neat little Rakeal Pike-style backheel finish, but it was well blocked under the bar. And Wrexham's threat subsided, and in the 24th minute, they went 2 down. And this was, again, another mistake. And I've got to say, I mean, this is something worth saying. I mean, all right, the conditions were terrible, but there were so many errors by Wrexham players, some of which you could look at and think it was the wind playing tricks, some of which was just sloppiness. This one was down to the wind, but still was disappointing. James Jennings with a free header on the edge of the area and not getting much direction or distance on it at all. And Barrow got it back. Ball came to Kay on the right-hand side. He whipped in a good near-post cross, and Blythe got up in front of his man and finished sharply first time from 6 yards out. And Wrexham were 2 goals down. Around the half-hour mark, the succession of decent chances, which were created by Luke Young's set pieces. He won, Wrexham winning a succession of corners, and 3 of them ripped in with good pace by Young, were attacked successfully. The first one, Young driving a good free kick 10 yards out at the near post. Bevan attacking it, a lovely contact and a slick header. I must be honest, I thought he'd scored, but it just grazed the left-hand post and went behind. Then a minute later, another corner by Young, this time from the left-hand side. Oswald getting up 6 yards out, heading it against his marker, and it deflected behind for another corner. And from that one, again, Young ripping a good ball in, Kennedy running onto it, making good contact on the header from 10 yards out, but planting it just wide of the right post. However, a goal to Wrexham, you feel, would have been a little bit flattering, and they ended the half, again, looking accident-prone. Kennedy with a slightly underhit back pass, Lainton mishitting his clearance horribly along the ground, nearly hitting the Barrow man who was standing right in front of him. But Wrexham weren't able to evade misfortune for long, and in the 3rd minute of added time, at the end of the first half, they went 3-0 down. Again, it was sloppy from Wrexham. It started off with Wrexham having a corner where it was cleared. Tollis tracking back, lost the ball sloppily in the centre circle. The ball was fed onto the edge of the area. Luke Young made a very good block, but the ball eventually ricocheted out to the left-hand side. Cross came in from Kay, and Hardcastle was there unmarked 6 yards out to drive the ball past the exposed Lainton. 3-0, game over. There really was nowhere else to turn, really. The same players came out for the start of the second half and gave a really energetic first 30 seconds, and then it kind of petered out. Injuries didn't help that either. Sam Broughton came on as a sub for Barrow, got injured, limped off, came back on and broke down again. Everything sort of broke down. There was no pattern to it. I don't think there would have been anyway if that hadn't had happened. Wrexham tried to make bold alterations, a double substitution. So the unhappy McGlashan and Oswell removed. Rutherford showed a fair bit of energy as he tried to charge around. Stockton came on up front and tried to put himself about a bit, but it was to no avail, really, in all honesty. There were the odd little flickers of opportunity. Mostly chances were coming from Young's set pieces, though. He swung in another corner just after the hour. Akil Wright against his old team probably should have done better. Free header, 6 yards out, planted it well over the bar. And then at the other end, Wrexham had another nervous moment, a horribly badly under-hit back pass by Lawler. Lainton doing really well to just beat the onrushing Hindle to it. Wrexham made their 3rd change, Chris Holroyd coming on for Stuart Bevan, who had struggled to make an impact. Didn't everybody? And in the 74th minute, did actually pull a goal back. Rutherford absolutely totaled on the right-hand side. Free kick on the touchline. Young again put the ball in with good quality. Kennedy at the far post rose and headed the ball past the keeper. And the fans, who had stuck with them, to be fair, really admirably, just started to make a bit more noise. Could the miracle be on? No, it wasn't. Nothing else really happened in the rest of the game, in all honesty. It was just a horrible, horrible, bad day for Wrexham. But certainly the change of formation didn't work out well. It was made in reaction to how Barrow have played, but although they played 4-3-3 for the last couple of games, they generally played 3 at the back. They reverted back to that today, and the formation Wrexham picked to try and expose the narrowness of Barrow's 4-3-3 found itself up against a totally different shape. And to be honest, it was Barrow who was picking us apart. So bad day for Wrexham, who desperately need to bounce back next Saturday. To hear some more analysis, have listened to what myself, James Harrison and Harry Wright had to say about the game after the final whistle on Calon FM.
This is the Final Whistle podcast from the Wrexham AFC media team.
That's a pretty horrible performance by Wrexham, isn't it, really? First time we've lost at home to Barrow since December 1953. And, Harry, I got to be honest and say it was on the cards pretty much from the start, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, going 1-0 down immediately, that doesn't spell the end of the road, the end of the world. You know, teams playing, you've got a whole game to get a goal back, but we didn't. We capitulated, unfortunately. You know, their second goal was a hint of good fortune about it on their half, but they took it well. And then the third goal just before half time was an excellent breakaway and a defensive lapse, I think, from Wrexham's point of view. And before you know it, you're 3-0 down and you're wondering where it all went wrong.
Well, in wondering where it all went wrong, James, I mean, firstly, that spine that you mentioned at the end of the commentary, Pearson unable to play 3 games in a week, so rested. Summerfield out. Brad Walker, of course, out injured as well. And without that strong spine through the middle, we looked at Manny Smith, of course, let's not forget. We looked rather lacking, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I mean, I think Manny, I'll put Manny out of the equation because he's been out for a while, but certainly recently, Pearson in that back, hollering, you know, you've got Leighton there who hollers at his defence. Kennedy and Lawler have been ample foils for both while they've been in. Are they the right foils together? Tonight doesn't fill me with confidence, although they did well together at Gateshead earlier, a couple of weeks ago. So it's a tough one, isn't it? But yeah, there's no leader in the back of that defence. Then you move to midfield. Summerfield has been missing for a few weeks now, and we've coped well with him. But then is that because Brad Walker was there? Luke Young and Akil Wright have done well in those games. Luke Young, for me, did well again tonight. But do they need that composure, that leadership as well, just to gel them together? And up front, we've been looking for a leader all season, so that's sort of where we are anyway. But yeah, I just think those three, perhaps we need at least one of them on the pitch.
There's no doubt, Harry, that the conditions played their part as well. Of course, I mean, horribly windy, freezing cold. But the fact of the matter is, Barrow coped pretty well with it. I'm just looking at Jason Taylor at the back for them, who was rock solid and judged so many long balls well, whereas our centre-backs were constantly making errors of judgment off it. You know, I mean, you can't make an excuse for the conditions in these circumstances, can you?
No, exactly. It's both teams had to play in this weather, but as you said, Barrow's tactics adapted perfectly to it. You know, they sat back quite deep so they could just clean up any sort of loose balls that came through, as Wrexham I think they were trying to play reasonably offensively, but they were trying to do that by launching balls forwards that just were not either finding their targets or they were just being swept up by the opposition. So Wrexham just were not coping with the weather at all.
No, absolutely right. As well, James, I think you put it very well, talking about the formation. I mean, actually, the formation was pretty much what we had been playing previously, and yet somehow in this combination, it just didn't gel at all. The front four looked detached from the rest of the team, who looked exposed when Barrow came forwards. And it was roughly the same formation, really, but felt different and absolutely didn't work.
Yeah, at times we did fluid. The formation was slightly more fluid than normal, but you're right. It's not an uncommon formation that we ended up playing, but the players just didn't seem to. McGlashan, I was looking forward to see him. It didn't get into the game. We didn't play him into what looks like he's going to have to play the ball 2 feet in space or to run through to. He's not going to cope with the physicality of the National League in terms of taking on a player, chesting it down and bringing it down, he's going to need the pace in behind or room to run. And we just don't deliver in the box, do we? We never looked like scoring, and that's a shame, because when you are 3-0 down, at least if you're creating chances, people can go away home and think there was a chance there, we just didn't take them.
Well, it's poison chalice time. Harry, man of the match. Man of that match. Go on. Good luck.
I think it's a case of...
Sorry, Harry, I'll switch your mic on.
I was speaking into air. No, sorry. I think it's Luke Young, really, isn't it? I was tempted to give it to Tollett. I think based on a couple of showings, I think he'd be my honourable mention. But yeah, Luke Young he created a lot of good chances, and obviously created the chance and scored the goal. His deliveries are good, and he's probably the least bad.
Yeah, I think in this circumstance, even the man of the match is probably an honourable mention, isn't it, really? Toller's had the odd sporadic moments, but yeah, Young with a set-piece delivery and endeavour, probably a good choice. A horrible day for Wrexham.
This is the Final Whistle podcast from the Wrexham AFC media team.